Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Shine, fly. No time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, fly. Be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds for deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify with you and God and time are best aligned.
Shine, fly. No time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, fly. Be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in that.
We're gonna get it right. We're gonna get it right. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. Happy Ghana Independence Day. My name, my heritage, half my roots come from Ghana. And on today, we're remembering Ghana's independence. And so to all the Ghanaians near and far, happy Independence Day. It's another reminder of how precious freedom is. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That is just Dr. Nii-Q. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never miss an episode. You won't miss it. And we have a really extraordinary show ahead for you. We'll be debuting our Washington Reporters Roundtable featuring Ebony McMorris of AURN, that is the American Urban Radio Network, and Gerren Gaynor, who's no stranger to A More Perfect Union. He's also the Washington correspondent for TheGrio. They'll be here helping us to kick off this roundtable and separate the fact from the fiction. Folks that are looking out for our community and keeping their finger on the pulse of what's happening here on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. And then in our second hour, stay right there, because we'll be joined by my colleague, Jesse Jackson Jr., and Howard University professor of political science, Dr. Ravi Perry, to get some historical context. It's not often you have a chance to talk to a former congressman and a political science professor at the Mecca to make sense out of this topsy-turvy week, to say the least. But first, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. You decide. And kicking us off, NBC News is reporting that, Trump walks back tariffs on a range of goods from Mexico and Canada for 1 month. Surprise, surprise. President Trump issued exemptions on tariffs for a variety of goods coming into the United States from Mexico and Canada. Just 2 days. Count them. 2 days after he put the sweeping tariffs in place, leaving investors and businesses grappling with the whiplash of his back and forth trade policy. The exemptions to the 25% tariffs enacted on Tuesday would apply to about half of the goods coming into the United States from Mexico and around 38% of goods from Canada that comply with the North American trade deal reached during the first term of Trump. It is the second time in less than 2 months that the Trump administration has announced and then backtracked on tariffs on the United States neighbors. The moves have rattled the stock market, with businesses warning that the added cost could drive up prices higher and cut their profits. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 are on pace for the worst week since September, as in September before the election. But let them tell it. This is all great. We're all good. The economy's never been better. Keep your eye on it. Speaking of folks offering alternative facts, the car and truck market is about to get worse, and not just because of tariffs. USA Today is reporting that the car and truck market is about to get worse because new car sales bottomed out in 2022, the peak year of COVID-19 era shortages that hobbled the assembly lines. And now that slow year for new cars is coming back to haunt used car shoppers. The 3-year-old vehicle is widely regarded as the gold standard for used automobiles. After 3 years of life, a car or a truck is old enough to have depreciated sharply in value, but young enough to have many good miles left in the tank. And in 2025, just 3-year-old vehicles will be in short supply. Edmunds, the car shopping company, they predict that 2025 will be historically bad. It'll be a historically bad year for 3-year-old cars. The reason? 2022 was a bad year for new cars with sales of 13.8 million. That's the lowest figure since 2011 when the nation was recovering from the Great Recession. And so if you're out there in the market for a car, beware of what is afoot in the marketplace. In California, Governor Newsom splits with Democrats on transgender athletes, calling it deeply unfair. That's right. The New York Times is reporting that Governor Gavin Newsom of California is embarking on a personal postmortem of the failures of his Democratic Party, suggested this week that the participation of transgender athletes in women's sports was deeply unfair. The comments by Mr. Newsom, who's backed LGBTQ causes for decades and was one of the first American elected officials to officiate same-sex weddings, represented a remarkable break from other top Democrats on the issue and signaled a new defensive position on transgender rights among many in his party. Just as surprising as Governor Newsom's remarks was the person to whom he made them. Charlie Kirk. Y'all know who Charlie Kirk is? A 31-year-old right-wing influencer best known for starting Turning Point USA, the pro-Trump organization that's active on college campuses. You see, Governor Newsom invited Mr. Kirk, who has a history of inflammatory and conspiratorial remarks, onto the debut episode of his new podcast, This is Gavin Newsom. Forget this, an 81-minute discussion. The governor, who has long been fascinated with conservative media ecosystem and tried to inject himself into it, explained his unlikely guess by saying people need to understand your success, your influence, and what you've been up to. Governor Newsom is widely seen as having presidential ambitions in 2028, something he joked about on his podcast. And for years, he was one of the fiercest Democratic antagonists towards President Trump, casting himself as the next generation liberal warrior, fluent in conservative orthodoxy, who could lead the party in the post-Biden era. Well, you decide. Is that what leadership in the post-Biden era looks like? Is that what you want to see more of from your Democrats? I don't know. That's why it's for you to decide. When we come forward, we're going to engage with our Washington Reporters Roundtable, talking about the U.S. House censure of Representative Al Green for his conduct during President Trump's address to a joint session of Congress. He was censured today, 224 to 198 votes. I think 2 members of Congress abstain. We're going to get Ebony and Gerren's hot take on this. Plus, a little bit later, we'll take a peek into their reporter's notebook, asking them to tell us something that we don't know. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Lot to talk about. Who cares about the Black community in Altadena? We do. On Saturday, March 8th at 10 a.m., it's the premiere of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This new weekly show will explore the deep roots and resilience of Altadena's Black community as we track its recovery and reimagine its future. From relief efforts to rebuilding, we're raising up voices, stories, and solutions to build back Black Altadena better and stronger than ever. It's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr, every Saturday at 10 a.m., beginning Saturday, March 8th, with an encore presentation, Sundays at noon.
James Farr, the man who is the voice for Black Los Angeles.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National News, The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and really delighted to welcome my friends, my colleagues, Ebony McMorris. She's the White House correspondent for AURN, American Urban Radio Network, and Gerren Keith Gaynor, the Washington correspondent for TheGrio. Welcome to the show, fam.
Hey, y'all.
Thank you. Hey, friends.
Hey, well,
I know. We've never done this together, all three of us. So
and because we don't see each other in the White House a whole lot anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
We have done this off air, but this is the first time I think we're doing it together on air, and we're doing it as a service to our communities across the country. We keep our finger on the pulse of what is relevant to Black communities across the country. And right now, we're seeing some of the most consequential decisions being made in rapid fire, from executive orders to efforts to pass a tax bill that could mean severe cuts to people who depend on programs like Medicaid. And so there's so much to get into, but first things first, TheGrio and others have been talking a lot about Texas Representative Al Green, who was unrepentant as he faced a censure vote in the House for disrupting the Trump speech. Gerren, tell us, what are you hearing from your sources, about, what became of that moment that I think is sealed in the memories of so many of our fellow Americans, watching Representative Green sort of shout out to President Trump during his joint address, "You have no mandate."
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that moment, and I think everyone was a bit surprised. And I think that's because it was actually spontaneous. Congressman Al Green didn't plan on sort of protesting in the middle of the president's his speech. But as he has told reporters after he was removed from the House floor, he simply couldn't contain his anger because President Trump was touting the fact that he won the 2024 election, that he won every swing state, and that he therefore had a mandate to go forward with his agenda. And as you mentioned at the top of the segment, this budget that the Republicans are trying to push through, while it doesn't explicitly mention Medicaid, you talk to experts, particularly budget experts, and you talk to Democrats who know how government is ran and how the budget is implemented, that ultimately it will call for some type of cuts to Medicaid or even other safety net programs like Social Security, if in order to pay for this tax cut plan that Republicans want to push forward. And so Congressman Green was, I guess, getting into some good trouble, and he did not apologize necessarily. He acknowledged that he did disrupt the speech. We don't often see, we've seen disruptions from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, but never quite like that. But it's worth noting that Republicans who disrupted President Biden, President Obama, were not removed from the chamber. And so this was seen as a big escalation in terms of the Democratic opposition to the Trump administration. And I think people wanted to see more of that, at least when you talk to Democratic loyalists who want to see the party really make noise, as opposed to some of the other demonstrations we saw, like holding up signs, et cetera.
And speaking of, Democrats making noise, apparently there are some Democrats that are calling attention to the fact that at least a dozen Democrats joined Republicans in the House in voting to censure Representative Green, who's now serving his 11th term and has offered no regrets when he explained his actions on the House floor today. Ebony, what are you hearing from particularly members of the Congressional Black Caucus about members of the greater Democratic caucus that joined Republicans to vote to censure Representative Green?
Some of the, it's unbelievable. Some of the reactions that we did see from some of those members they said it was because of civility, right? But we are in a very uncivil time. And I'll say this just to quote Dr. King, that when he said that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. I actually had a chance to speak with Representative Green the following day. Early in the morning, I called him to try to get an interview, but he had actually just heard about the death of Congressman Turner. He was tore up about that. And when I talked to him, he said, Ebony, I just can't be silent. I'm done. And don't forget, this is the second time that Congressman Green has spoken out. Don't forget, during the speaker vote, he stood up then as well. And so when I've spoken to other congressional members or even different policy walks, talking about this. The one thing that I keep hearing is they're looking to see a concerted effort from Democrats altogether to see how are they going to move, if they are going to move in some type of unison, because even when the president was speaking, some were there, some were not there, some were wearing colors. We saw people holding up different signs. It felt like it was just a little bit all over the place, but I am happy that we saw Congressman Green stand up and speak out. And he said, give me the punishment. He didn't care about that, because what we didn't hear from the president was anything on Medicaid. We didn't hear from the president anything on Social Security. We didn't hear from the president anything on Medicare. And when you started out earlier speaking, you said people are going to begin to feel the effects. But let me just say, people are already feeling the effects. When we look at the price of groceries, when we look at different organizations and nonprofits that are actually having to shut their doors in fear, just the fear of what is about to happen is already having a tremendous effect. Even what we're seeing within the car industry, you have companies that are already doing markups. People are feeling the effects. People getting notices, you being let go, then getting another notice, come on back to work. That back and forth, that jerking response is I believe, stirring up a cry within many Americans. And so I think people are waiting to see what is going to happen next. And you get different answers from different congressional members.
Well, speaking of congressional members, earlier today, Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries led his weekly press conference, and he said a lot of things during that press conference. But one of the things that stood out to me, he talked about the flood the zone strategy and how it's designed to disorient people and create this appearance of inevitability. And he felt the need to call attention to the fact that not a single Project 2025 bill has passed. And to date, Donald Trump has not had a single legislative accomplishment. And so, yes, we have experienced this barrage of executive orders, but you have Leader Jeffries, the legislator, who is saying that executive orders and legislation are not one and the same. Gerren, is that dog gonna hunt? Is that argument? Are there any signs that argument is able to hold water at this moment?
I think the Speaker Jeffries, I think he made Leader Jeffries, where he wants to be Speaker.
He wants to be.
They want him to be. We want.
And what he does between now and midterms will determine whether he will be Speaker. But he makes a compelling point that this comes on the heels of the last session of Congress. It was like the least productive Congress we've seen. We also remember during President Trump's first term, he really didn't have, if we're comparing legislative achievements, certainly President Biden had a much longer list. And so President Trump can tout his First Step Act, his tax cuts, but it wasn't exactly a very active 4 years in office. And so it remains to be seen whether Republicans can really come together and agree on how they push forward this budget plan that focuses on energy and on the border and on the restructuring the tax plan. I'm not sure that argument necessarily works with everyday voters, but I think that as we continue to watch what happens in Congress, I think that we will likely see a struggle for the Trump administration and getting Republicans in line, because they're not necessarily always in agreement. But we've seen with the confirmation of his cabinet, for example, that he is willing to call Republicans directly and push them to vote his way. And so we'll see if there's any success on that end.
In addition, we know that during Leader Jeffries' weekly press conference today, he also called attention to the fact that there have been 2 cases that have gone to the Supreme Court, both of which the Trump administration has lost. He was talking about the Office of Special Counsel case and the USAID funding freeze case. Ebony, you reported on the Supreme Court ordering the Trump administration to release foreign aid, although that order remains uncertain. Any signs that that decision is going to hold? Any signs that there's reason for our allies overseas to be hopeful that this order will stick?
That's a good question, and that's honestly what we're waiting to see. And I say that because you already have some organizations that are talking about already having to shut their doors. And so what we have seen is that the Supreme Court has then kicked this to a lower court to decide the timeline. So even though we have that decision, we've got that decision, but now a lower court has to decide the timeline. So what happens between now and when the timeline is decided? And then in addition to that, we see the administration saying that they have already pulled some funds, released some funds. It's almost like it is not going according to the courts, but it is going according to the way this administration wants to handle it. And because we've not seen this before, even though we're seeing lawsuit after lawsuit, some judges are stopping some of the things that this president or putting things on hold that the administration wants to do. You see another court do something different. I was actually a little shocked, though, of what the Supreme, I will say, because it's a very far right leaning Supreme Court. I was surprised at their actions. But still, it leaves people in limbo because the number one question that many of these organizations are having or that are receiving this aid is, what is this timeline? And it is affecting tremendously our American farmers, where we have seen there is food just sitting on the millions of dollars worth of food that is being wasted. And these farmers are not being compensated. I mean, there's a trickle down effect that I don't think really Americans really understood when it came to U.S. aid.
When we come forward, I want to get Ebony and Gerren's take on the White House's new media strategy to promote Trump as king. Day to day, a big part of our job is keeping our finger on the pulse of what's coming out of the White House. These days, what's coming out of both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, that is. When we come forward more with our Washington Reporters Roundtable. This is our inaugural Roundtable with Ebony from AURN and Gerren from TheGrio. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. DeSoto County, Mississippi leaders are planning to sue over new legislative maps creating a majority black district. The Board of Supervisors has hired legal counsel to challenge the plan ahead of the August 5th primaries. Elk Grove, California schools are investigating a teacher for sharing racist material during a Black History Month lesson. The Catherine Albiani Middle School teacher is on leave and the district has condemned the content. Black Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown is joining 22 attorneys general opposing a lawsuit that could weaken the National Labor Relations Board power to protect workers' rights to unionize. They urge the court to deny YAP USA Automotive Systems' request to block NLRB proceedings. An African-American Rep, Kwesi Mfume, and Rep. Gerald Connolly are pushing for an inquiry into Trump-era federal job cuts, accusing President Trump and Elon Musk of harming the country while Congress does nothing. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Santa Monica 10 eastbound loading up away from Cloverfield. That's a tough drive across Mid-City to the 5 in Boyle Heights. The 5 southbound crawling out of Burbank. This is getting away from Burbank Boulevard. Delays all the way to the 605. The North 5 loads up out of Irvine from the 133 freeway, and delays continue all the way to the 14. The 14 northbound into Santa Clarita. You're on the brakes and stretches all the way to Escondido Canyon Road.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
With President Obama in the house, Clippers guard James Harden delivered a spectacular performance Wednesday night at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Harden dropped 50 points in the Clippers' 123-115 win over Detroit, helping the Clippers to snap a 3-game losing streak. The 35-year-old Harden is the first Clippers player to reach 50 since Lou Williams did it at Golden State on January 10, 2018. Obama, who sat next to Clippers owner Steve Ballmer on the baseline, saw Harden make 14 to 24 shots, including 6 3-pointers. He also made 16 of 20 free throws. Harden ranks 4th in the NBA in 50-point games. Wilt Chamberlain is the all-time leader with 118, followed by Michael Jordan with 31 and Kobe with 25. The Lakers are home tonight against the New York Knicks at Crypto.com. The Lakers, number 2 in the Western Conference, are going for their 8th straight win. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community, educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caSMPvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their programs. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and I'm joined with my friends, my colleagues, Ebony McMorris of AURN, American Urban Radio News Network. Also, Gerren Keith Gaynor, the White House correspondent for TheGrio. So, listen, we are a part of the White House Correspondents Association. This is an organization that's existed for over 100 years. Just about anybody who covers the White House until recently had to be a member of the White House Correspondents Association. The Washington Post today reporting on the White House's new media strategy to promote Trump as king. After years of working to undermine mainstream outlets and neutralize critical reporting, they report that Trump's allies are now pushing a parallel information universe of social media feeds and right-wing firebrands to sell the country on his expansionist approach to presidential power. For the Trump team, that's involved aggressively confronting critics like Selena Gomez, not just to reframe the narrative, but to drown them out. And so, Ebony, I want to start with you. Give us some sense of how are you adapting to this new posture in this with this administration? How are you adapting to covering the White House, being a heat missile when it comes to issues that are important to our communities, but also not overwhelming yourself in terms of having to sort through all of the junk information?
Can I be honest with you? And to me, this is the time. This is why the Black press was created. This is exactly why people need to seek out Black press, need to seek out trusted sources, because when talking about adjusting, we already knew this was coming. Right? We knew, maybe not in the magnitude or the room was going to be flooded, but he already told us. They already told us who they wanted to put in that room. And I'm going to just say, and so one of the favorite people who I love is James Baldwin. And one of the things that James Baldwin says, he says, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. Right? So now Trump is flipping that because he wants to bombard everyone with what he says so that we cannot see what he is doing. But the role of the Black press is to expose what he's doing. So while sometimes it is easy to get caught in some of the clicheest things that he says or others say, and not to show you the effects, not to show you what's happening within the school system, not to show you what's happening in your wallet and in your pockets, because many times people can have things happening to them all around them, but if they stay focused on the wrong thing, they don't even realize, as LBJ said, and it was for white men at the time, that their pockets were being picked, right? And so when we begin to have an administration that wants to paint him as a king, which basically creates an erosion of democratic principles and also this cult personality, it is very polarizing. But for me, I have to stay focused. I'm just looking at my desk right now, and the book, two books I have on here is MLK Jr.'s Where Do We Go From Here? And then also a book on the life of Frederick Douglass that says power concedes nothing without demand. So it is our responsibility to expose the propaganda. You've got outlets that literally recorded the thousands of lies that have come from the first administration, right? Now we're trying to sift through all the fact checking and all the lies that we are seeing now. But this is what we saw when it came to Hitler, this type of propaganda. So when we talk about how I adjust, I keep my eyes on the main thing. And that is giving people information that is going to, number one, expose lies. Number two, for me personally, help build upper mobility in their communities. Our role there, just as Allison Dunnigan said, is not just to report the news as everybody else, but we also are fighting oppression in that room, because what he's saying is literally affecting our lives as well. And this is the administration who they are trying to not just rewrite history. We're talking about completely erase history to the point where they are trying to even shut down different organizations that collect our history.
I mean, well said. Very much in the tradition of the Black press. Gerren, as someone who, is checking for issues that are of concern, not just the Black community, but the LGBTQ community. Someone who is running back and forth between the White House and Capitol Hill. And so, when you're covering administration, it's not just the White House, but it's the agencies, and it's engaging members of Congress that have jurisdiction over those agencies. And so, Gerren, share with us, how have you adapted to Trump 2.0, covering Trump 2.0?
Well, admittedly, 6 weeks in or so, I'm still figuring out that rhythm. I think it's obviously a very different administration. While I think there's a misconception that the Black press, especially when there's a Democratic president, especially in the last administration where we had the first Black press secretary, there's an assumption that we pick a side, and our side is our community, our side are our readers. And so whether it was the Biden administration or whether it is now the Trump administration, we're always going to be reporting about the issues that concern our communities, and our job is to hold them accountable. It is increasingly more difficult, I think, to hold this administration accountable when their strategy is to flood the zone, when their strategy is to not be held accountable. I would say that objectively, the Biden administration oftentimes tried to be forthright with the press. But now they're bringing in people who are not vetted journalists. And so it's really turned the press, the association and the press pool upside down. Because how do we know? I mean, people think that being in the press pool is just being in the room and asking the president a question. It's real work. We have to actually send reports out, and that has to be trusted. And if that system, it becomes a system where there are more bloggers and streamers who are not trained journalists, who do have a political bent and have an agenda, it just messes up the integrity of the work that all of us do, whether you're in the Black press or whether you're in the so-called mainstream press. And I think that the idea of, focusing on creating making him a king is very dangerous, because we're the USA for a reason. If we wanted to be Great Britain, the USA wouldn't even be what it is today. And I think about the strategy of the actual royal family, like when they really control the way that the media covers them, and there's this expectation that you don't criticize the royal family. And so if the United States becomes like that, where we can't criticize or challenge any president, no matter a political party, to Ebony's point, it does make us less of a democracy. Our job is not to pick a side. Our job is to tell the truth. And how do you tell the truth when you have an administration, a president who has historically not told the truth, who continue to not tell the truth, and they really are daring us to challenge them. And we have to continue to challenge them regardless. And I'm not going to say that is easy, especially because that drowning out is real. I mean, when we're in that room, there are a lot more journalists there. The press secretary has the discretion to choose of who she wants to call on. And I know I haven't been called on as of yet. So it's making us have to find different ways to hold the administration accountable. And for me, it's been going to Capitol Hill and talking. I mean, I've always gone to Capitol Hill here and there, talking to experts. But now we really have to rely on real experts to do our reporting when we have an administration that doesn't necessarily want to have an open door policy. But it's been interesting. I think that, the moving from focusing on the press, it used to be the press office, now is the Office of Communications. I think that tells you what the agenda is at the moment, and that is to focus on getting out a singular message from the president and not necessarily collaborating with the press and being transparent.
Which is what they said. Remember, Caroline Levitt she said, when we talk about what happened with AP, she said in reasoning why they were put out of White House events, it was because they wanted more people in there that showed the good things that the administration was doing. I'm telling you, I was sitting in that briefing room like, this is what? Like, I literally was like, okay, all right. But then I had to remember that there is so much more outside of that room, just like Gerren was saying, talking to other leaders, because a lot of the people that we talk to don't always, they watch the clips that come out of there. They look for, the crazy moments that come out of the room. I don't know a whole lot of people, more now so though, that will sit up and watch the entire briefing. So we have to take that information back and then spit it back to the people to let them know, no, let me tell you what they just said, because I know you're not watching it, but let me tell you what you missed, what's about to happen.
That's right. That's right. In our remaining minute, I want to give each of you an opportunity to take a peek into your reporter's notebook. And there's a barrage of information that's out there, but tell us something that we don't know about something that we should know as a community. Gerren, you first.
What should, I'm not sure if there's something that you should know that you might not know, but I will say that keep an eye on the state and local level. I think that as Democrats try to figure out how they navigate this trifecta in Washington with Republicans having such control, you're going to see a lot of Black mayors trying to hold the line. And because when you're closer to the people, that's where there is a lot of influence. And I think that there's going to be a lot more attention on the local level as we move ahead in the coming years.
That may help to explain why we saw several big city mayors testifying before Congress this week. I'm sure they will not be the last. Ebony, in our remaining minute, tell us something we don't know or should know.
Here's something that I believe you should know as we inch closer to the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. Where not too long after that, we saw the months after Voting Rights Act of 1965 being passed. I want people to understand that there is still a movement to attack voting rights. We talk all day long about why Kamala Harris didn't win, but one thing we miss in that is what happened when millions of people were booted off voter rolls. And while we're talking about everything else, there are several states that have already tried to make moves to still restrict your access to the ballot. We've got primaries in 2 years. We've got in another 4 years, another election. And I'm telling you, while we're looking at one thing, Republicans, they are working vigorously and hard to keep tearing at the Voting Rights Act and restrict your access to the ballot. So pay attention what's going on in your own state. I need you to start having family conversations. Continue those conversations about how you can also move as a community. I think, honestly, as much as we've talked about a lot, this can also be one of the greatest times we have for upward mobility in Black communities.
Look, it's going to be upward mobility, or it's going to be the Great Migration, considering all these federal firings. My thanks to Ebony McMorris over at AURN, American Urban Radio Network. Also, Gerren Keith Gaynor over at TheGrio, both White House correspondents, both looking out for our communities, putting our communities first. And I want to thank you for being the inaugural guest for our Washington Reporters Roundtable.
Thank you, the amazing doctor.
Yes, always happy to be here. And today was really fun being with y'all. So hope we can do this again.
Absolutely. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Life blooms in beautiful ways. The Afia Center invites you to celebrate At the End with Red Gala, honoring the strength and resilience of Black women living with HIV. Join us for an evening of empowerment as we launch the Barbara Cambridge Scholarship and kick off Herstory Month with our theme, Life in Full Bloom. Your support helps create vital HIV programming and builds a future where every voice is heard and every story matters. The End with Red Gala, because every flower deserves to bloom.
To learn more and to donate, visit theafiacenter.org.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Let me just remind you about our Fired But Not Forgotten Testimony Project here at KBLA Talk 1580. We're joining forces to make sure that we are collecting the stories of federal workers, particularly Black federal workers who have been a part of this mass firing, who've lost their jobs. You may have lost your job, but you haven't lost your story. And we want to make sure that we document your story. This is our attempt to make sure that the truth is not forgotten, that our people and their sacrifice, their contributions to making this a more perfect union as members of the federal workforce is not forgotten, that it's documented. And you can share your story on the record or off the record. Just go ahead and email us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com. If you have the KBLA app, you can just use the open mic feature. You can record your story, and we just might feature you on an upcoming episode of this show. My colleagues across KBLA are all tapped in and participating in this. And so we may just reach out to you to share your story on the airwaves, but we want to make sure that we are doing our part to document and amplify your story. And, speaking of folks who have been impacted by the efforts of the incoming administration, I want you all to really read my lips on this. Republicans can't meet their own budget target without cutting Medicare or Medicaid. That's what the budget office says. Not just Nii-Quartelai. That's what the budget office says. As reported by NBC News, House Republicans can't meet their own budget target that's necessary to pass President Trump's legislative agenda without making significant cuts to Medicare or Medicaid. That's what the official budget scorekeeper confirmed just yesterday. House Republicans adopted a budget blueprint just last week that opens the door to pass Trump's policy priorities on immigration, on energy, and taxes. It instructs the House Energy and Commerce Committee to cut spending under its jurisdiction by, get this, $880 billion. The Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan in-house think tank that referees the process, said that when Medicare is set aside, the total funding under the committee's jurisdiction is $8.8 trillion over 10 years. Medicaid accounts for $8.2 trillion of that, or 93%. So what does that mean? Well, it means that when Medicare and Medicaid are excluded, the committee oversees a total of $581 billion in spending, much less than the $880 billion target. This is according to the Congressional Budget Office. The letter outlining the figures was in response to a query by Representatives Frank Pallone, a Democrat of New Jersey, who's also the ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and Brendan Boyle, a Democrat of Pennsylvania, the ranking member of the Budget Committee. That leaves Republicans in a deep predicament. the budget resolution adopted by the slimmest of margins in the narrowly divided House. It was the delicate product of negotiations among conservative hardliners who demand steep spending cuts and swing district GOP lawmakers who say they don't want to slash funding for the health programs their constituents rely on. So to all the organizers that are hearing this, those are your targets right there. Those Republicans in those swing districts who are already feeling queasy about going along with this. They're already feeling queasy about the potential of slashing funding for the health programs that their constituents rely on. This is part of the reason why you have Republican leaders that are saying, don't do these town halls. Just don't do them. This is the time to tap in. I know a lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are overwhelmed by the barrage of executive orders that are being signed, cuts to the federal workforce, cuts to programs that matter to people across the country and around the world. Don't turn away. Don't turn away. I bet there's somebody that is important in your life that depends on Medicare, that depends on Medicaid, and couldn't imagine life without it. This is not the time to turn away. It's time to tap in. You should save the number of your member of Congress, and you should wear that number out. Because the healthcare of the people we love is on the chopping block. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown and 21 attorneys general won a nationwide injunction blocking President Trump's medical research cuts. Brown says the ruling saves lives, jobs, and vital clinical trials, vowing to keep fighting for funding. Georgia Rep. Lucy